If there's one thing which separates ZZZ from its contemporaries, it would be the overall artistic direction. But more specifically, I want to talk about the drip. This is a game where you can take an NPC off the street and convince a non-ZZZ player that they're actually a playable one. The attention to detail when it comes to the outfits that everyone wears is pretty damn good. The outfits themselves feel pretty much grounded in reality. They're believable. They usually implement elements of their environment or their lifestyle into the outfits, either subtly or quite literally. They will usually follow the rule of having one statement piece, something loud and interesting, and then balancing it out with a bunch of complementary pieces, as to not be overly gaudy, and most importantly, the outfits are just really damn cool. But today, what I really want to talk about is the playable cast of characters. We're going to try and rank everyone's drip. We'll chat about their real life influences, which, spoiler alert, is going to be a lot of Asian streetwear, combined with heavy influence from techwear brands, such as Y3 and Acronym, to really help push that kind of post-apocalyptic, almost cyberpunkish feel. How well do they complement their personality and their faction? But also, how interesting are their designs and outfits overall? So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have Anby, and this right here is quintessential ZZZ. In terms of the entire outfit, you can really sum it up with techwear. This top piece, you could easily convince me that this came from an Arc'teryx, Stone Island, Nike ACG, whatever you want. It's a two-piece, so it has the cutout on the top. This is super popular right now in like K-pop and Asian streetwear in general. You'll see it with trousers especially. They have like, I don't know, it's cut off and it's kept together by like a strap. So like, it's almost like a short, but then you have the rest of the trouser. Similar concept here with that. This is very popular. I guess the peaking thong. A lot of people be doing this. This right here, this is how you know that ZZZ designers know what they're talking about. The quick release clip-on belts have been a staple when it comes to techwear streetwear. Loads of people have been getting onto this. Even I have something similar to this as well. Let's get down to the shoes. Now, we'll talk more about the shoes once we look at other characters, but you'll see a common theme. You're going to have an upper, i.e. this part, where it's no laces. It's going to be straps, it's going to be zippers, and then you're going to have a really chunky midsole, which is this part. Balenciaga is the real influence when it came to this. It started off with the sock shoe, which a lot of people have, myself included, and then also the Balenciaga really thick the dad shoe that came out, the Triple S. And this has kind of bled its way into Asian streetwear culture in general. People love that chunky sole. In Asia, a lot of people like to increase their height, especially with that sole as well. So it's very popular, and you'll see a lot of characters, if they're not wearing boots or they're not wearing like dress shoes, they're going to be wearing something, a variation of this. So overall, it's very difficult to not put Anby in S tier. Quintessential. Okay, next up we have Billy, and from what I know, he is influenced by Billy the Kid, from what I believe, the famous cowboy back in the day. He doesn't have very obvious influences from that design. He does have the little deputy star and whatnot, but other than that, not much else. You know, if you didn't know he used guns, you wouldn't be able to 100% tell. Now, the obvious statement piece is going to be his jacket. Cropped, which I really like. Having the cropped here just makes his legs look even longer. Great proportions for the actual fit. Fantastic. The actual jacket itself is pretty cool. I'm not the biggest fan of these hooks. No idea what these are about. I don't know what this is, but it's cool. It's a nice jacket. The fit itself is very simple, right? I'm not the biggest fan of skinny jeans, but it works. The asymmetry is fantastic. I like it. The biggest weak point for me when it comes to the fit has got to be the shoes. I think a boot would be more interesting, in my personal opinion. something you could go with a more modern take on like a cowboy boot or something, just to give a little bit more reference to Billy the Kid. I think these shoes, like I mentioned with Anby, you know, it's that Balenciaga sock shoe again, you know, no laces, very simple upper, chunky midsole. I just think it's a bit lazy, it's a bit boring, but other than that, the fit is okay. You know, this is a very quintessential B for me, right down the middle. It's inoffensive, the jacket is nice, the proportions are good, but I think everything below the waist is just very boring to me. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's gonna go in B tier for me. Okay, next up we have the ZZZ It Girl herself, Nicole. Now, her outfit, if you were to implement this in real life and any cosplays that you've seen, it is a relatively revealing outfit. You know, the bottom half, especially with the short shorts, it's not something you're going to see every day, and it takes quite a lot of confidence to wear this. But overall as an outfit, it is very, very coherent. It matches her personality very, very well. The distressed tights, the asymmetry is fantastic. The little details when it comes to the belts, you know, the belt not being buckled, again, this whole cut out type thing, it works very well for her character. Now, the outfit itself is pretty much completely monochrome, except for very small splashes of color. The main one being this Labubu, essentially, right? She had a Labubu before anyone else had it. So she really is that it girl. That splash of color is massive for her design. There is also a little bit of splash of color at the back as well. And then I believe this is the Cunning Hairs logo. Now, one thing you're going to notice with the Cunning Hairs faction in general is that there really is no coherence. They're really just a band of friends. They don't have like a uniform or a certain style that they all go for, which is completely fine with me. But yes, her design I think works very well. It's quite simplistic, but I do like it. The splashes of color are a very nice, they work really well together, essentially. Now, if we talk about her alternative outfit, this I am not a big fan of. It's too much. The colors are just too out there. They almost got rid of the parts that made her very interesting. The asymmetry is just not as pronounced. I personally don't like this outfit as much. It's okay, but I definitely prefer the original. So I'm going to put this as a pretty comfortable A. It's simple, but it does the job. And it translates very well, matches her personality very well, and it's quite wearable in person as well, if you have the confidence to wear this. Okay, next up we have Corin. Now this is the first, what I would consider a uniform. Because she belongs to the maid faction, she's going to be dressed relatively similarly to the other people from her faction. But it's not just a maid outfit. There are the small details which give her that personality. The one that really stands out to me are the sharp edges, right? On the skirt, you have these blades, which essentially hint to the fact that she uses a saw as a weapon. She's added a bit more roughness to the maid outfit. This belt, you know, is pretty much out of place, along with this chain. Kind of gives you the impression that she is a bit more edgier. Perhaps her weapon is physical. She gets in there, gets stuck in. It all makes a lot of sense. You know, the cufflinks with the tons of belts everywhere, right? On the skirt, on the arms. It really hints to her being kind of a more melee focused character, which she is. She gets stuck in. But it doesn't hint at the fact that she is a very shy character, which is fine. The big statement piece is going to be this little bear here, which again emphasizes her kind of gothic, kind of almost shy kind of style very well. It complements her hair color. You know, the entire palette is very, very bland, very black and white. The hair is very muted, the brown's very muted, and you just get little flashes of red. Now, in terms of real life influences, you really can say goth plus Lolita is a very popular subtype, especially in Japan. you'll see a lot of gothic Lolita fashion on the streets. When I was in Japan, I saw quite a lot of Lolita fashion out there as well, surprisingly high amounts. She's a goth Lolita. It's pretty much that. This is quintessential. I think this is a very, very good outfit for her. So I'm going to put this in A tier as well. And that's Corin. Next up, we have Big Boy Ben Bigger. Dripped out. I have to say, I absolutely love his outfit. It's super simple. White overall, pretty much everywhere, black undershirt. Nothing crazy. He doesn't even have footwear. But it's so quintessential to Ben Bigger. It just tells you everything you need to know about his style, who he is. It's crazy. I love it. You know, obviously, he's part of the Bellabog construction group, so he's got that construction belt. You know, he stays strapped up. He has everything. This pulley, this little Kuma, like, pull tab type thing. You'll see this around like cars and stuff, where they have the little tag, the pull strap. That's very cool. It's the little details. The actual fit itself is very simple. You know, the gold chain, for example, nice accent. When you see rappers and stuff like that, sometimes they'll come out in the all white or the all white monochrome fit, and they'll just have really nice jewelry. This is kind of what Ben Bigger is going for, I would imagine, where the entire fit is just white, a little bit of black here, pretty monotone, and then you just have the flashes, the nice little pieces. That's what it's all about. Like, if you got rid of the chain and you got rid of the utility belt, it'd still be a cool fit, don't get me wrong, but it's the chain and the tool belt which take it to the next level. Now, in terms of what the actual real life influences would be, the main one would probably be something like Carhartt, you know, the workwear brands. Now, Carhartt, it's workwear, but at the same time, you know, skaters wear it as well, and it's pretty mainstream. But, you know, this type of work shirt, the work trousers, this is Carhartt. You're going to see Carhartt influence here a lot. Not much else to really say because he doesn't have any shoes on or whatever like that, but I think this is a fantastic piece. So I'm going to put this also in A tier. Okay, next up we have Anton, and I'm going to be 100% real with you. I'm just not that big a fan of this outfit. I get what they were going for. You know, he's very hot-headed, and this is that kind of, how would I describe it? Like a Bozuzoku high school delinquent, Japanese delinquent type outfit, you know, with this whole draped jacket. The jacket itself, very, very cool. I think if he actually wore the jacket, it would make him look much cooler. But the fact that he's got it draped over the back, it leaves a lot here exposed, which I'm just not that big a fan of. I think if we went more industrial with the actual harnesses, if it was like black with like metal, I think that would be much cooler. It would work much nicer with the yellow as well. I don't know. Now, the big piece for me is obviously the trousers. I think they kind of are cool, but I'm not the biggest fan of this. I think if they let them actually go to the floor, or he had much bigger boots and it didn't leave such a, for me, an ugly silhouette, I would prefer it. You know, some people might say, oh, this is like a, what Toji from, what's his name, from JJK would wear. You know, he had like this with the very skinny shoes, and I've seen a lot of people wear this as well. I'm just personally not a big fan. I would have preferred much chunkier shoes, or even like boots, or just let this all go out instead of tucking and let it go down to the floor essentially. That's pretty much what I would change. If he just wore the jacket, I think I would like it much more. So this is the first one I'm going to put in C tier. Not the biggest fan. I can see what they were going for. It kind of fits him thematically, but as an overall outfit, I just don't like it that much personally. Okay, next up we have Sokaku. And straight away, this is a fantastic demonstration of taking a uniform but making it your own with accessories. That's the big thing here. Now, she's part of Section 6, obviously, so they have a dress code, kind of. They have a uniform, they have a color. You know, they all wear this kind of teal, which is perfectly fine. It's a great color, great combination here with the black. But it's the accessories that really make this, right? Firstly, we have the shirt. I do like it. Black tie, whatever this kind of clip thing is, very cool. The choker, very cool. The jacket itself, it being very cropped, gives her very nice proportions. Lengthens the legs, makes the torso look shorter. Fantastic. That's what you want when it comes to like looking good in clothing. Proportions are the most important thing. If it was like very, very long, I think it would just look very boring and it would throw the proportions completely off for me. These little cufflinks here are a little weird for me, but not the biggest deal in the world. The back, same thing. This little Oni mask decoration, the little metal here, this little splash of color and the stickers on the skin. Now this is something that I've seen more often now. People just wearing stickers and bandages on their skin for decoration purposes. I've seen it quite popular nowadays where you have like Hello Kitty bandages or like, you know, My Melody, Kuromi, stuff like that, things you like, and you just stick it on your skin and it's kind of like a little tattoo or something, right? I think that's really cool. Again, we get down to the shoes and it's the same thing. No laces, right? You notice very minimal upper, chunky sole. Like I said, it's very, very common in this game that they're going to be wearing that stuff. But the skirt, I like it. Asymmetrical, right? It doesn't just, it's not just a straightaway skirt. You have an extra section as well. The belt is very nice. Overall, I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of it. I think not having anything on the head works, or then it would just be too loud. There'd be too much going on everywhere. There isn't necessarily a statement piece. You could say it's probably the jacket, and everything else just really complements it. I'm a big fan. I think the shoes could be a little bit more interesting just because I'm not the biggest fan of this type of shoe, but overall, a very, very good outfit. I like it a lot. The accessories carry it. A tier for me. Okay, next up we have Lucy. Now this is honestly a very simple but very coherent outfit overall. You know, if you tell me to think of a biker girl who's in a biker gang, this is what I would pretty much come up with. I do like the crop nature of the jacket. The flared arms are a really nice touch. The distressing pretty much all around the outfit, from like the back of this flannel to like the shirt, are a nice touch as well. And there's overall a pig motif. You know, you got this kind of pig snout thing here. But the most interesting part is gotta be the shoes. Now, off the top of your head, you're probably gonna think, oh, these are just like pig hoofs, right? But you could also say they take inspiration from the tabbies. Now, the tabbies themselves are a very divisive and controversial shoe. Some people love them, some people hate them. But I think they took inspiration from that and turned it into a boot, which is really cool. But yes, like I said, overall, the fit itself is nothing special. It's very coherent, it works. So I'm gonna put this in B tier. Next up is Piper. And you remember what I said about Anby and the whole like two-piece trouser type thing? This is exactly what I was talking about. You have shorts underneath and then you have this extra part of the trousers which is held on by like a buckle. You'll see this a lot in like K-pop and stuff like that. It was very popular. This sleeveless thing as well, you know, she's a mechanic, so it kind of makes sense. You know, this does look like, again, you have the more industrial look with the like welding gloves, the arm protectors. The welding goggles are a really nice touch. You could say it takes influence from Carhartt and workwear and stuff like that in general. I do like the fact that these are much baggier. I think that's really cool. The side detailing is really nice. The shoes. Now, I'm actually quite a fan that they went with white. I think it really complements. They could have easily gone with black. They could have even gone with orange, but I think white to complement the other accessories is a really nice choice. In terms of the design, these are really weird. Like, I've never seen the steel toe thing, but that makes sense from her occupation, I guess. Having steel toes is really good. Now, these lace design here reminds me kind of like the off-white dunks. You'll notice they have like a bunch of laces that go across in real life. You could say maybe some inspiration from there. They kind of also look like the shell toes from Adidas, the Superstars. But overall, yes, a very interesting shoe. You know, if you were a mechanic, I don't know if you would wear this, but overall, I do quite like the outfit. She doesn't have that many accessories. You know, there's a bunch of colors in her outfit, but overall, I do quite like it. So again, I'm going to put this in B. Okay, next up is Nekomata. Now, she's a cyborg kind of cyberpunk kitty ninja type thing. You can definitely see the Asian influence mixed with that cyberpunkish nature. You know, this kind of looks like a kimono, but completely deconstructed, you know, with the ropes and stuff like that. Very cool. The shorts, not the biggest fan of this, but is interesting. And then you obviously have her mechanical boots. Now, this is the first outfit that I would say is probably not the most wearable. Just because I don't know where you're going to find mechanical boots like these, at least right now, in terms of influences. You could, you know, Mischief might make something like this at some point. But right now, I don't know of any mechanical boots like this. But as an overall design, it's quite interesting. It's very on the nose with her character, right? There's no mistaking who she is and the fact that she's a cat girl. She's like a ninja type thing, cyberpunkish. Overall, it works. It works very well as an outfit. I just don't think it's very wearable. So I'm going to put that in C for that reason. Okay, next up is Koleda. Now, she has a very interesting silhouette. Very light up top, very heavy on the bottom, and then finishing very light. Now, I do quite like that. The silhouette is interesting. The upper, I'm not upset about. The main thing I don't like is the whole flame motif on the actual clothing. I just think it looks very tacky. You know, it's almost like the tribal tattoos that people had in the early 2000s. Just not a big fan of that at all. What I do like is the bottoms. The really wide pants. You know, the fact that she's essentially taken off the upper part of the overalls and she's just tied them up, just let it hang. Very cool. I like the tool belt. I would prefer if it was all black. I don't really like the brown too much here, or just even yellow to match out with the like hazard yellow that they have going on. The thing I don't like the most is, again, the shoes. I think it just ruins the silhouette, going really skinny at the bottom after going really wide at the top. These shoes are pretty much one-to-ones of the Nike Riffs. I'll put a picture up. That's what they remind me of. And I think they pretty much took inspiration from that. Again, I would really just prefer a really wide boot, like a really big chunky boot. It would just really fit the whole silhouette much better. Yeah, going from really light top, heavy bottom, and then really skinny like shoes really kills the silhouette for me. But overall, it's cool, very cool idea. There's just some things I would really change. So again, it's gonna have to go in C tier. Okay, now we have Grace. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed with this outfit. I think it's all just a little too bland and a little everywhere. There's kind of just too much going on, in my personal opinion. It's just overall a little overwhelming and boring at the very same time. Now, obviously, it suits her personality. She's like an engineer, she's a welder, you know, she's got the goggles and stuff like that. But I think there's just really too much going on. You know, you've got the crop top, you have one sleeve and then a different sleeve on this hand with the fishnet. Just doesn't really make much sense. The trousers, I think the trousers are just so boring. There's like nothing going on with the trousers at all. They're just skinny jeans or just even tights. I'm not even 100% sure. You have a little bit of asymmetry. You know, this strap going down is cool. You know, this part is interesting. Just not a fan of this random like brownish beigeish thing right here. And then again, you have the shoes, the chunky sole. You know, this one has laces, but very minimalistic upper. Same thing. I just think, unfortunately, the Bellabog characters, other than Ben Bigger, just a little boring. Just a little boring. Grace being the biggest offender. Now, Grace is a character, I do love her, you know, and she's better without her shoes anyways. But yes, I just find this design extremely boring and just too noisy, too out there. I'm gonna have to put this in D, unfortunately. Okay, next up we have Lycaon, and again, he's part of Victoria Housekeeping, so he has a uniform. But what he's done with the essentially BDSM gear has really worked wonders for the entire outfit. Adding a ton of belts and loops to everything, but then still having, you know, a very nice vest with the like pocket watch. Works very, very well. Now, again, he has cybernetic legs, so can't really do much with that in terms of being wearable. But this is a very, very interesting outfit. You know, you have the BDSM theme goes along this entire thing. The belt buckles, even on the tail, just randomly, belt buckles everywhere. It's a very nice mesh of professional with that almost freakiness of the BDSM gear. I just think this outfit works really well. The only gripe I have is that proportionally, it looks a bit weird. He's a bit top heavy. If this was a bit cropped, it didn't go down here, it would make his legs look a bit longer, and I think would fix the proportions a bit more. But other than that, I'm a very big fan of this. So I'm actually going to put this in A tier. If it was a little bit better on proportions, I'd prefer it, but that's what I'm going to go with here. Okay, next up we have Rina. Now again, part of Victoria Housekeeping, she's a maid, but I think overall it's a little less interesting than Corin. It doesn't have that expression from the accessories, right? The only thing that I really notice is the arms. This whole thing makes it look like she is perhaps some sort of hacker. You know, she has like the sleeve with the leaving the index and the thumb open, whereas the other ones, you know, she's probably doing something with strings, etc, etc, right? Maybe she's like that hacker type, and from what we know in the game, she commands like these puppets. So this is a really cool, nice detail, but other than that, there really is nothing special about her outfit. The actual dress itself is quite nice. You know, you have again a little bit of that belt slash BDSM style with the red going all over the outfit. They look like belts, they look like strings and stuff like that. But outside of that, not too interesting. You know, nothing really stands out, nothing really, you know, if you told me this was an NPC character, I'd believe you. You know, she doesn't really stand out from the crowd. And for that reason, I'm going to have to unfortunately also put her in D tier. I think she's just a very boring looking character. Not much to really show her personality, unfortunately. But, you know, she has other personalities, so it is what it is. In terms of shoes, I mean, red bottoms, Louboutins, maybe, but yeah, again, very basic looking outfit. That's unfortunately a D for me. Okay, next up is Soldier 11. Now, again, you get to the point where if you told me she was just an NPC character, I would believe you, because there is nothing inherently remarkable about the outfit. You know, it's very battle ready, you know, not much skin is showing at all, and straight away you can tell, you know, she's a fighter. She gets in there. She's even got the goggles and everything like that. No skin showing. That's perfectly fine. But I don't know. It's just very, very boring to me. The bottoms I'm not a fan of at all. I think the weakest part of the outfit is the boots. I think you could really go more interesting with the boots. Maybe higher up. Something. I'm really not liking this checkered pattern down here. It's just very boring. Everything about this is really safe, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. You know, you do have that kind of... ZZ loves this two-piece long sleeve detached from everything else instead of just having a long sleeve shirt. But all in all, you know, this is a very practical outfit. You know, she's a soldier, she's very practical herself, so it matches her personality for sure. But it's just extremely boring. She just looks like a, I don't know, just an NPC that you would see that's just fighting. You could tell me she's an enemy and I would believe you. I don't know. She just looks like a normal grunt. Nothing really stands out. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that's going to be D tier for me. Okay, now we can talk about Ellen. Now this I really like. Again, part of Victoria housekeeping, so she has a uniform, but it's the small details that really make the fit. Similar to Corin, she has a lot of accessories which tell you a lot about her personality. The big one, the cufflinks, the collar, even the headband, and these little back tassel things as well, all tell you that she is quite dangerous. You know, she is Etherian shark, so it makes a lot of sense. You know, these are the teeth, etc, etc. She has this kind of scarring pattern, and all of these things really work together to really tell you her personality. The thing I'm actually going to touch on is also her nail choice. Red nails works really well with the actual red parts of her as well. Her hair, the little ribbons here, it all works very well. The tights, again, it has that shark teeth motif, works very well. In terms of the shoes, red bottoms again, probably influenced by Louis Vuitton, you know. It seems like that's just a thing for Victoria housekeeping. Very bougie, makes a lot of sense. Overall, this is very good. The fit itself is really just carried by the accessories. You're seeing the what you would assume would be like dark scars that you see on the tail matched along with the skirt and stuff like that. Again, you have the stickers, right? Using bandages as like decoration on skin. It's a very common thing that I've seen a lot these days. So this is carried by the accessories, and this is how you do a uniform correctly. I really, really like this. It's going to go in the same tier as Sokaku and Corin, so that's A tier for me. Okay, we have Zhu Yuan, and she's obviously part of the PubSec, the police. So there's not too much to say. It's going to be uniform, you know, it makes sense. You're not really allowed to accessorize that much. You know, just from the outfit, you can tell she's all business, you know, no frills. The thing that I really like is the crop nature of the top, the upper. It really accentuates her legs, which is what you really want. The proportions on this are fantastic. You know, very short upper. This is great. This is what you want. This is why it looks so good. Now, the actual bottoms, I'm very torn on these trousers because you can tell that they are supposed to be functional in that these are probably pads which allow her to slide and, you know, without ripping her trousers and stuff like that. It makes a lot of sense. You know, you have this here to accentuate the butt. Fantastic. It all kind of blends into the shoes, which I'm a bit torn on. I do find it kind of cool. Again, you have that really chunky sole, but the trousers go straight into the shoes and they're kind of like one piece. It's very functional, very, very functional. But again, it is just a uniform. You know, there's not much you can really do. You can tell, you know, she's all business. She has like accessories and, I don't know, equipment all over the place. So it makes sense. I think this is a solid B, because you can tell she's unique enough. She looks unique enough that I wouldn't believe that this is just an NPC. You know, there's enough going on, which I like, but it's still just a uniform. So I can't really put it in A tier. There's not enough done to it that makes it unique. Okay, next up we have Qingyi. Now again, part of the police. Still just a uniform, but her uniform is very much different. Because she's a cyborg, you know, she doesn't need that full body coverage like Zhu Yuan would, which makes sense. You know, she can slide around. It's all metal anyways, it's all good. It makes a lot of sense in that regard. But overall, the outfit is a little boring. There's not really a lot of interesting accessories or anything. You know, you have these power cells, which are kind of cool. You know, she does have she's a big fan of tea. So there are small motifs of like Chinese things like dragons and stuff like that. But outside of that, it's a very boring outfit. You know, it's not something that, you know, is very wearable because it is a uniform. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty boring, to say the least. There's not much I can really talk about on this one. So for that, kind of has to go in D tier, unfortunately. Next up is Jane Doe, and this is perfection for me. You know, you have the cropped bomber with the fur, something that you would maybe see from like an Alpha Industries that's just been cropped and stuff like that. I really liked the cropped look because, I mean, it really makes her legs look fantastic. Proportions wise, this is really, really good. The jacket itself has really nice detailing, which is really cool. Little metal parts here and there. The back is interesting. It's not just one note. She has the little fanny pack, which is really cool. All really fantastic stuff. The straps, you know, this was really popular a while ago with the whole bomber jacket craze. So it's an oversized yet cropped. Really nice look. Really nice look indeed. The red nails, I'm fucking with that. The shorts. Now these are really nice, actually, with the zipper motif. Really cool. Into the extremely distressed tights now. I mean, come on, guys. You're a man of culture. You're enjoying this. Again, asymmetrical. You know, one of them is all the way. The other one is not being held up. Very nice. Very nice. And then the boots. I think the boots for me are the most interesting part. Now, you're going into like platform boots. You know, you have this kind of bunch of lacing here, which you could maybe even say comes from Rick Owens. There's the Rick Owens boot with a bunch of laces on them. You could say there's influence from the really high top boot Converses with the chunky soles as well. So there's that. Yeah, it's just a really interesting footwear choice. You know, it's almost 2 layers. And I mean, this is very wearable. You know, there's a ton of cosplay out for this and it looks good. It looks good. This is a fantastic outfit. One of the best designed characters in terms of the actual clothing choice. Fantastic, fantastic. This is going in S tier for me. Easy. Okay, Seth. Now again, PubSec. Not much you can really do about this. It's honestly, again, a very, very boring outfit. I do like the fact that he's gone for this kind of sleeveless turtleneck thing and just has the PubSec on here. That's a little interesting. At least it's not just a PubSec thing. Again, detached cutouts. Something that they really love in ZZZ for sure. The trousers, I'm not a big fan of the silhouette. It doesn't know whether it wants to be skinny or it wants to be straight. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the trousers at all. And again, it just feeds into the exact same shoes as like Zhu Yuan had. So it's probably just part of the uniform, right? Not much I can really say. Kind of a boring looking character. It just is what it is, unfortunately. That's going to go in D tier for me. Next up, we have Caesar. Now, I actually quite like this a lot. A ton of asymmetry, right? The jacket itself, super cropped, which again, I really like. One sleeve off, one sleeve on. I like this a lot. The king motif here on the chain, really nice touch. Overall, really good. I think it gets a little bit weaker once you get to here, but that's completely fine because this really takes your eye. And then you have these belts here, which I really like. You know, the double, even triple belts is really cool. It's something that kind of harkens back to the kind of emo days where people were wearing like 2 belts and stuff like that. One slanted. I do like this overall thing. I think the bottom is where it gets a little weak. I don't know. The shoes don't necessarily clash because it works with the white here, but I'm just not the biggest fan of these at all. I would prefer maybe just a boot, or if you're going to go with a heel, go for a heel. Like a very, I don't know, a chunky boot heel just doesn't really bode well for me. I'm just not the biggest fan of that. The bottom is where, for me, it really falls weak. But overall, it's decent. It's a very decent looking outfit. So for me, this will just go into B tier. Okay, Burnice. Now, I really do like this. There is a fire motif, similar to like Koleda having a fire motif, but I think this one is done much nicer. You know, it's not as tacky at all. It just works. Again, really nice cropped with the tube top. Works really well. The glasses. Now, the glasses are a fantastic touch. You know, she's a very ditzy, bimbo-y, like fashionista almost, right? So having these like almost designer glasses whilst having, you know, this very studded, more punk jacket is a very nice contrast. Very, very nice contrast. I do think that these fire headband or like hairband things are a little too on the nose, but is what it is. It's a very consistent outfit. You know, it's black, red, and gold. It works. It's very clean. The bottom, I do like it. You know, high-waisted skirt. It's a high-rise skirt. And then really nice tights with the red. It works. The gold shoes, I think, are a very, very nice touch. There's not a lot of gold on her, but where it is, it works. It's almost very much one piece, and I do really like it. Like I said, it's super simple. Super, super simple, but it works. It's very coherent, and the nice little touches of personality are really, really nice. So I'm actually going to put this in B tier. Okay, next up we have Lighter. Now, overall, I do find his design a little boring, but thematically it works. He has the aviation jacket on, he's got the aviator glasses, the little tiger stripe motif here and here. It all works very well together. However, for me, I would have kind of preferred more of a, I don't know, like maybe something sleeveless showing a bit more skin. He's really a fighter and he gets up in there. It almost feels like you want less clothing if you're going to really be going up there. Something like a vest or a cut-off vest, like a biker vest, you know, like Hell's Angels, that type of thing, would make a lot more sense in my opinion. But yes, if you like this design, the whole aviation thing, it works. It's kind of weird because he doesn't fly a plane, you know, he drives a motorcycle, I believe, or he's part of the motorcycle gang anyways, but he has aviators on and an aviation jacket. I don't know, it's a little clashy for me, and I would just prefer showing a bit more skin. That's how I would change this. Just really not a big fan of like the boots and the bottoms. It just looks very one note. It's very boring to me. Just not the biggest fan. You know, you have essentially the biker jeans. They were called biker jeans. They've really gone out of style now in general. They were very popular back in the day. But yes, these are the biker jeans. You can see the patterns on the actual thigh area. It's taken inspiration from there. But yeah, it's kind of weird. For me, it's boring, but also all over the place. And it's, I don't know. It doesn't suit his personality in my personal opinion. But yeah, I'm going to just put that in C tier. Okay, next up we have Yanagi. And again, this is how you do uniform correctly. It's fantastic. You know, you can tell she works in the office. She's a worker. You know, you have the dress shirt, the skirt. The little bolo tie is a really nice touch. Instead of just going for a normal tie, having a bolo tie is actually quite interesting. You have the ID card. Very, very nice. The big part is this. You know, this has come like a kind of like a samurai shoulder guard on one side, asymmetrical, with the draping stuff. Very cool. You know, that splash of color that shows you that she is part of section 6. Very, very nice. And this hairband thing is also very cool. Fantastic use of just taking a monochrome office outfit and making it interesting, adding color and splashes of color to it. Really, really nice. The weakness comes from, I think, just how plain the bottom is. I guess it makes sense because she does work as a professional. You know, she works in an office. You don't want to do too much. Maybe tights would be, you know, too much. That's fine. I just think the weakest point are her shoes. I'm just not really a fan of it. You know, this whole extra tongue part, I'm not sure what they were going with here. I'd prefer a more traditional heel maybe, and then something a little extra, like maybe a thigh high or something in terms of tights. Yeah, overall I think the balance is there. There's just a lot going on up here and then not much going on down there, which is fine. I think the balance is correct. I'm just not a bigger fan of the shoes. So for this, I'm actually, I'll go in A. I'll go in A. I'm a little bit biased because I really do like the upper design, but it's just not an S for me because the bottom is just, yeah, just not a big fan of the shoes. Just really not a big fan of the shoes. Next up is Harumasa, and I mean, again, section 6 have this on lock, it seems. Again, you have the professional office attire with the tie, but then you have this really nice kind of arm slash chest guard thing, which I guess is for archery because he's an archer. Makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. You have the choker, which is really nice. The yellow headband is a really nice touch. Just adding that little bit of yellow to the overall monochrome fit makes a lot of sense. It looks good. You know, you've got the glove again, the arrow thing, and the yellow here. It works really, really well. And you add in obviously the teal color that comes with section 6. It works. It works really, really well. I think where it falls apart for me is the bottoms. I don't like the sneaker choice at all. I think if he had dress shoes, it might look a bit better. Slim down the pants a little bit, really nice dress shoes, or even a chunkier shoe. A chunkier dress shoe would work really well, in my opinion. I just think this upper, and then you just have these kind of sneakers which really make it look a little too tacky for me. Not the biggest fan of the shoes at all. But outside of that, it works. It works. But I would prefer a dress shoe or a chunky dress shoe. Something along those lines I think would balance out the fit a little bit more. It just looks so weird with the trainers, with the sneakers. I'm just not a big fan at all. So for that, I'm going to put that in B tier. It's good, but again, the shoes, they fail it. People forget about the shoes. The shoes are so important in an outfit. Okay, let's talk about Miyabi. Now again, section 6 really do have it down. You have the kimono, you have the dress shirt with the tie that everyone else has. In terms of what her style of representing section 6 is, the kimono style top with the really wide sleeve works really well, and it's asymmetric. You know, she's only wearing it on one side. The red is really nice here. Overall, it's just really, really good on the upper. Once you get to the lower is where I have a problem. The skirt is a really awkward length for me. I think if you had gone even longer, like down to the ankle, and really fed into that whole kimono look, I think it would have looked a lot nicer, especially with these shoes. If you had the really long skirt with these shoes, I think it would be fine. But with this awkward skirt length, with these shoes, I just really don't like it. I'm not a fan of these like boot style heels. They're just a little ugly to me, personally. I would prefer, if you're going to go with this skirt length, a more sleek shoe would look nicer. A more subtle heel would look nicer for me, personally. But that's just me. If I had the choice, I would go with a much longer skirt to really go into that kimono look. But overall, it's okay. Definitely on the B tier. Okay, next we have Astra Yao. Now, we're getting into high fashion now. You know, she's a mega rich pop star and she looks like one. This is a very nice outfit. I really like it. You have this kind of two-tone, almost detached dress where the sleeves really interesting, the frills are really nice, and then it connects into this more corset-y dress. Really looks like a corset, much harder material where this looks much softer. It's really good. It is really, really nice. You know, the outfit itself is quite simple overall. Really nice accessories on the hair. Just a small little motif. She looks expensive. She looks like a superstar. She got the drip. She has the ice. It works. The pearls. Overall, it's fantastic. This little motif here is really good with the pearls again. And then more pearls on the shoes. I'm a big fan of these shoes. Big fan. The chunkier platform heel, really nice choice. Really, really nice choice. It's not a stiletto. It works. It works. It really is just good. This is an overall really solid outfit. It fits her perfectly. For that, I might go S, you know. I might go S. It looks really good. It looks really, really good. And when we even look at the alternative outfit as well, it's even nicer, even more luxurious. I do love this a lot. It really does feel like just a recolor, but you know, there are small motifs here with the extra pearls and stuff like that. So, and the ribbons, fantastic. I love it. It's fantastic. It's great. Next up, we have Evelyn. Now, in the trailers, originally, she was just wearing a suit because she was just security. But she then became like best friends with Astra Yao, right? And she had to upgrade her wardrobe. Now, it's still a suit. It really is still a suit. And you can tell she's a bodyguard and she's able to fight just from all the straps. You know, you have like the pocket knife here. This is almost like a gun holster strap type thing, right? If she had guns here, it would make sense, almost. She looks like a hitman, essentially. The jacket dripped over with the red inside, a very, very nice touch. Louboutin-esque, very, very good. You know, the choker, the butterfly motif, she has that everywhere. Even underneath her shoes, she has the butterfly. Black and gold with that touch of red is just very, very classy. There's nothing I can really fault with this. You know, it's practical. It works. She looks fantastic doing it. This is really good. This is really, really good. I'm going to also have to put this in S tier. Next up, we have Soldier Zero Anby. And unfortunately, I think this is personally a downgrade from a style perspective. Her original outfit had a lot of charm, you know, quintessential ZZZ. Whereas this is very, again, very boring. There's nothing that really stands out for me, which makes sense. She's Soldier Zero Anby in this one. She has to look more practical. You know, there's still a bit of asymmetry, carbon fiber legs. She's practical. It makes a lot of sense that she's wearing this. But it's boring. Overall, it is very, very boring. There's nothing to really write home about with this. It's not particularly wearable in my opinion. The scarf is a nice touch, you know, the back seams on the tights is a nice touch, but overall it's battle gear. And yeah, not particularly interesting at all, unfortunately. Not much to really say about this. I'm gonna put this in D tier, unfortunately. It's just a bit uninspiring for me, in my opinion. Okay, next up we have Pulchra. Now this is actually very interesting. Quite a wearable outfit overall. Very, very simple. The standout piece would probably be the jacket. Again, it's got the cutout, so the sleeves are slightly disconnected. But it's very interesting. You know, it has this kind of lace, which is probably influenced by the kind of gothic long boots from Converse. Makes a lot of sense there. Overall, it's nothing particularly interesting. Again, you could probably convince me that this was an NPC and I would believe you. There's nothing particularly stand out. The mask, a cool touch, a very cool touch. But yes, very bland, not that many accessories. Kind of a cool belt. It's got the short shorts with the, I assume this is distressing, not really fur. But yes. The boots are kind of cool. It kind of has this separate part which is not part of the boot, I guess, but then it's connected by the straps here. So an interesting gothic kind of platform boot. Overall, it's coherent, but it's nothing special in my opinion. I'm not really sure what this kind of shattered glass pattern is really about. But the jacket is really interesting, you know, tons of cutouts, really cool. But yes, it's not particularly standout, and you could convince me this is just an NPC. So I'm gonna put this in C tier. This is combat gear, in my opinion, done correctly. It's interesting. The silhouette is interesting. I'm surprised not many other people like Soldier 11 or Soldier Zero Anby have used camo. Camo is very cool and it makes sense. You know, this is urban camo. It works. The black with the yellow makes a lot of sense. It's good. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to combat gear. The silhouette on the sleeves is really cool. I like this a lot. The pants with the zipper here. This is a really nice midsection. I do like this. Again, the fact that this is cropped has given it a very nice silhouette overall. It looks fantastic. The boots, I'm not mad at these boots. It fits. It fits. The whole, this thing is like, pull it to tighten. It works. I'm not always the biggest fan of this kind of style. You see it quite a lot in this game. But I think for this overall, it works. It works very well. Got the knee pads. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I really like. When it comes to combat gear, it doesn't have to be NPC-ish. This looks like a playable character, an interesting character, because the silhouette is interesting. They've done something with the pattern. It's not just monochrome. It's not just boring. I like this a lot. This is going to go in A tier for me. Next up, we have Vivian. And this right here is truly quintessential Lolita fashion. Google it, look it up. You're going to see outfits that look like this all over the place. It's absolutely lovely. I've seen these outfits in real life. You know, when you go to Japan, you'll see this a lot, believe me. Gothic Lolita. This is what it is. The texture is lovely, you know, having the frills here, bunch of layering. It just works. The subtle purple, very subtle shades of purple along with the hair. I mean, it's lovely. It's very simplistic, but it just works. It's exactly what you want. Very wearable. You know, you could see a person just wearing this out and you wouldn't really, I mean, you would look because it's very nice, but it just works really well. The highlight for me are the shoes, the ribbons, the chunky, almost stiletto-y heels. They just work with the silver motif. Very, very nice. That kind of white, silverish, different shades of purple and black. Fantastic. This is an easy S for me. Easy S. Okay, next up we have Hugo. Now, the influences, I could probably say something along the lines of SLP, you know, where you have a really tall, skinny man in very tight fitted clothing. In suits, this is what you're kind of looking for. I really do like it. I like the color of the shirt. It not just being black or white, but like a very unique shade of purple is really nice with the white motif, and the black is really, really cool. The jacket is really nice with the gold. It's nice. Again, asymmetry, having one sleeve off is really cool. I do like that. The trousers and the belt is a really interesting situation. Now, you know, I don't think this belt is holding anything up. It's merely just for decoration, but it's nice. It breaks up the silhouette. I think overall, he's a very tall character anyways and has really long legs. Me personally, I kind of would like them to dive even more into that SLP style where it's even tighter. And then the shoes, give it that SLP boot, that SLP Chelsea boot, I think would look really, really good in this regard for this character. But overall, I'm not really against this. I'm quite happy with this fit. So overall, Hugo for me is going to go into B tier. Okay, Yixuan. So I think this is where things will begin to get a little controversial. Now, apparently, there are two different teams in ZZZ who do the designs. And there are characters which distinctly fall into Group A, and then you have characters like Yixuan who fall into Group B. If you told me this character was a Honkai Star Rail character, I would believe you. I'm not saying the design is bad. The design is not bad at all. It's actually a very, very nice overall character design. But it doesn't feel ZZZ enough for me, personally. And you can even compare this with some of the upcoming characters. They all share somewhat of a similar design. You know, just different color, like a palette swap almost. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's not very ZZZ. It's a bit unfortunate. The overall design is interesting, you know. The accessories are what really make it. The Chinese motif, essentially. The Chinese lucky spiritual motif is really cool. But I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't feel ZZZ enough for me when you compare it to the other characters that have come out. Other people have noticed this as well, and this is something I've also noticed. It kind of looks like a Genshin character or a Honkai Star Rail character. One thing I will say, I'm really not a fan of these shoes at all. I don't know what I'd replace them with, but it's not these, that's for sure. So for me, she's gonna have to go in C tier. I don't hate it, I just don't feel like it's very ZZZ. Okay, Pan Yinhu. Not much I can really say. I mean, it fits the theme. pretty much on the head. You know, it's very literal what they were going for. Kung Fu Panda-ish, you know, Chinese. It makes sense. The design is good, but he's no Ben bigger. The drip is not there for me. I think they could have done something a little more interesting. I do like the glasses. He's cool. He's cool. There's only so much you can do with this kind of body type, right? It's gonna have to be baggy and stuff like that, but for me, it's too on the head. I don't like it that much. There's not much I can really say, so that's an easy C for me. Okay, Zhu FuFu. Now, to me, this is one of the most boring designs. I don't know why. She really does look like an NPC. If she didn't have such interesting hair, I think the hair for me is what really carries it and really pushes that tiger motif for me. You know, the tail, the big hair, that's it. The rest of the outfit is very, very simple. Very, very simple. The jacket is cool. Again, cropped, really nice. The silhouette is good. But no, like, the sneakers are almost too... They're just Converses, essentially, right? There's nothing particularly interesting. But at the same time, you know, I've said how bored I am of that kind of sneaker that all the other characters use. So seeing this is almost jarring, kind of. So I don't know. Part of me likes it because it's different. You know, no one else has really got shoes like this. But at the same time, the rest of her just seems boring. She's carried by her hair, pretty much. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, for me, the characters from this patch have really, from this faction actually, have disappointed me. You know, I guess it was kind of difficult with the theme of the faction, so it is what it is. But yes, they're gonna all go in C tier for me. Yuzuha, thank you for getting us back on track. Now this is what I'm talking about. This is easy. This is character design that I like. Very, very cool. I don't know, there's something perfect about this. You know, the brown, the red, the white, it all works really well together. It's almost school uniform-ish. You know, it's got that kind of sailory school uniform type thing with the big bow. The cardigan is lovely. The cardigan is really nice. Having, you know, this guy sitting on the back is really cool. The tanuki motif, really, really nice across the board. I love it. You know, the asymmetry, the striped socks, the boots, they work really well. Everything just works fantastically. The color palette that they chose for this is great. The cardigan is really, really nice. You know, this is interesting design here. Now, if we talk about the swimsuit version, I'm not the biggest fan of this. I think it looks good. Again, we've got the bandage motif, It's all over the place. We love it. But yes, it's fine. This is not the best thing in the world. For me, the base design is really, really interesting. I just like it. The skirt, everything plays together really nicely for me. This is easily an S tier design. I think this is a fantastic return to form for ZZ in my opinion. Lastly, we have Alice. Now, this Alice design for me is kind of all over the place. You know, if I just showed this to somebody who didn't play ZZZ, you wouldn't really be able to tell what kind of character this is from her design, right? It doesn't straight away scream anything in particular. I don't know. It's a good design. It's a good outfit. I think it's pretty coherent, but there's nothing stand out. The shoes for me are cool. There's something, I can't imagine anyone actually wearing these, but for her, it kind of works. I don't know why. It's typical chunky shoe, but there's something a little bit different about it. But when it comes to the rest of the outfit, I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place, but very simple at the same time. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not 100% sure. I know she works for like an agency or something, so it almost looks like work attire, but then not at the same time. Like you could say this is just an outfit. Very weird design for me. The direction is just kind of all over the place. So, but as an actual outfit, very wearable. You know, I could see someone wearing this. Not sure where you would buy this kind of thing from. I'm not sure where this is influenced from. Kind of look robotic, cyberpunkish, but yes, you know, it's good. It's a good outfit. Just a little all over the place. So it's going to go in B tier for me. And that, boys and girls, pretty much wraps it up. Very long one. Lots to talk about. Lots of opinions. Let me know what you guys think. What would you guys change? Do you agree with my list? Do you not agree? Let me know down in the comments. Feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.